Okay, so what we are going to do next is we are going to create an endpoint async uh, assign user and and then what we can do, like, this will be a batch request. Okay, and we are going to expect we are going to ask for project ID, and then what I'm gonna do next here is I'm gonna get this project ID from param, and I'm just going to extract this project ID here. I will map it with the project ID, and this will be a number. So to convert this into number, we'll have to use valid pipe here and valid ID pipe that we created a long time back in some initial videos. So if you want to very check how this works, you can go back and watch my initial, I mean, I don't remember exactly, but it would be in 1 to 5 videos, so you can check those things, and then you will be able to understand like how this is working here and why we are using it. Alright, so now that we have this project ID, we are also going to extract body, and from body what we are going to do is we are going to uh, pass something like so we'll have to create a separate DTO for this, right? So let's say I'm gonna create one more file here, assign uh, user DTO TS. Okay, this is fine. And here what we can do, or instead of creating the separate DTO, what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this, since here I will be just passing one property, so I can extract it directly. Assigned users, and this will be user IDs, and this will be number, an array of number. So in case like if we are passing just one property, we can directly extract from the body. So for that case, I will not need to write a separate DTO. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just write this dot create project service, and then assign user. I know I haven't created this method, but I will quickly go ahead and create it. So instead of user IDs, I'm going to write assign user IDs. Okay, in case if you want to assign multiple users, then we can also do that. We'll also need our own user ID. Oh, do we need our own user ID? Probably not. So let's leave it as it is, and let's create this method in project service at the end. And here I can just write async, and then what I'm gonna do, I'm going to pass project ID, this will be number, and then what I can do, I can just get user IDs, this is assign user IDs, and this will be an array of number. And then what we can do next is we can just write return this dot project. So I'm using this shared user service, right? So in shared user service, what I want to create one more method is async. So I want to fetch a list of users when I pass a list of IDs. So get users by IDs. So in that case, how we can do that? So we can just do this way: user repository find, just we'll have to use find, or find not one, but we can use just find. And here in where, what I can do, I can pass in ID, and then in is an operator in type ORM. So this will check whether this ID is in this or not. So I'm going to pass this from here. Now I can use this method in my project service. Alright, if I scroll down, I reached here. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just use that method. What was the method name? Find, I need to use user service find get users by IDs. So here we can say assigned users IDs, and we need to save this in one variable, const assign users to assign. Alright, I'll have to await it as well. And then next, what I can do, I'll have to also fetch the project, right? So const project, or let's do one thing, let's try to first fetch the project. And even before, fetching the project, what we can do, we can add a check for it, like if project ID is there or not. Although we can also add validation in DTOs, but right now, or even always, like you can handle these cases in service as well, as an extra cushion. And there you will find cases like when for some reason from somewhere else we are trying to trigger this endpoint. So at the time of writing unit test cases, will not have to update it. So try to handle the null checks and undefined. So if there's no project ID, or project ID is 0 or empty or null undefined, so in that case, so if no project ID, or if assigned project ID is not length, if not length, so to verify this, what I will have to do, in case if we have assigned user IDs but it doesn't have any length, or we can just say its default value will be empty array, and then we can do this directly. Alright, now if this happens, we are going to throw new bad request exception, please provide valid project ID or user IDs to assign. And now this we have added in text. Next, if this all of these are correct, then what we are going to do next is we are going to try to find the project. So const project equal to await this dot project repository dot find one or fail, find one by or fail. So here what you can do, you can just add id, and what you can do, we can just pass here project id. Alright, if it doesn't find, it will fail or throw error. So in that case, what I can do, if we have the project, then that is well and good. Otherwise it will throw an error, and then we'll get users to assign. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do this use object.assign, and on this project I'm going to write assign users, not assign user, assigned users, and this would be users to assign. Alright, and then we can say this dot project repository dot save, and this time we are going to pass this project. Okay, I want to save it in separate variable so that I will not be returning the complete response. So I can say I can save the user, save project, and here I'll have to await this as well. And then in next line what I can do, I can if save project, then we can just return ms's user IDs, users with IDs, assign user IDs to string, user with IDs assigned on the project with ID. Alright, this looks good. Now what I'm gonna do, for in case if something goes wrong, then we can throw error. Okay, but if something goes wrong, then what will happen is generally we'll not have to add a check here. The reason behind that is if something goes wrong, it will throw some error, and for that what we can do, we can just try to add a try catch block, and then here in the catch we can say error throw bad request, throw new bad request exception, and here what I can say, fail to assign user on given project. Alright, this looks good. Let's test it. This two endpoint will be same, so I will have to add something else here, assign project, and then assign users. So can we write this way, users, or this way? I think for URL ideally we should use hyphens, right? So assign users. Now I'm gonna save it, and I'm going to create one request here. This request will be assign user on project, users on project, and then I'll save this, and this will be a patch. I'll copy some URL, the path from git projects, and paste it here. And now I need to put project ID here. Let's say, let me just fetch all the products first. So I have project 2. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna put 2 and then assign users, and then in body what I can do, I can just pass assign users. What was the assigned users? Okay, so assigned users. So here we can pass, let's say 1 2 3 or something like that. If you try to save this, user ID assigned on the project ID too. Now if I try to get projects, then I'm not able to see anything. But if I go here in profile, is it possible to get the details here? Okay, let me just log in. Then I'll have to log in with the same user. Okay, do one thing. If I want to see like what users, if you want to populate the associated entities, then we can do this way. Go back in project service, and in get projects we can say relations, and here we can write assigned users. Alright, and I'm just going to copy and paste this here as well, and that's all. Let me just try to test it again and see if this is giving us the result. Projects, nope, I'm not getting any users property here. Okay, I just removed it by mistake. Okay, now it's time to test, and we have signed users properties. Alright, so do we need to see all these details? I don't think so. So let's select few properties like email, name, probably profile picture, and that's all. So what I can do next is, let me add one more line here. Select, this time what I can do, I can use assigned users, and here I can use name true, email true, profile picture true. That's all. So if I try to test this now, I'm getting the desired properties only. I probably will need ID as well, so I'm just going to add ID here. Okay, so this thing I will have to write at every place. So what I can do, I can just create one private variable, private this will be private related property, what we can say, relation, project relation entities options, project relation options. You can just You can rename it whatever you feel like, but for now just I'm keeping it of type any. And here I don't think I need to write type since I'm just going to hard code this. So I'm gonna cut this and paste this here completely. And this one, what I will do is I'll destructure it here. Or directly we can write this also. Similarly, here I can destructure this dot project relation options, and yeah, that's all. See if this works. Yes, and if I go back in get project, okay, let me try to fetch project 2. Alright, so if I try to handle this thing, I mean the internal server error, so how to know like why this is happening? So this is happening in case of get project if the project is not there in the database. So if I go back in get project by ID, what is happening here is we are getting some error. So if I go in entity, base entity, not filter, I just want to see filter, all exception filters, this exception. So I'm just going to console log type of exception, and let's see what is the type of exception. So we can write type of exception and see what it is giving. Alright, okay, if I try to do this to string, will I be able to get? Let's try this once more, and otherwise we'll look into the documentation of type ORM. Entity not found error. Okay, so we need to track this. So generally what we can do, we can no, I mean do this in each and every service, but since this is very common and will be happening in multiple places, so I'm just going to handle this in the global filter only. Is entity not found exception, then what we can do, exception instance of entity not found error, and then we can check. Okay, so if I add this in this condition, probably someday later we'll have to add more conditions. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a method here in bottom, and I will try to get status from there. Okay, so get http status, and here what I can do, I can just pass my exception, and then what I can do, I can just write this two things here, and let's add a condition if if this is a HTTP exception, and return exception dot get status. All right, and message. So we'll also be sending a message from here. Else if exception is instance of entity not found error, then we can return exception, or we can just return entity in bad request. So HTTP status dot bad request. Okay, so instead of returning just status, what I can do, I can add status, and then we will add message as well in some time. Let's first add status here. Okay, all right. In else condition, what we can do, we can just pass status as HTTP status dot what we can do, internal server. Okay, so how we are getting message? So on exception we have get response as well, so we can do this way. Message exception get response. Here in message we can say, is it possible to get, I mean just use message? Yes, I think so. And in internal server we don't want to send something like any message explicitly, since we don't want to, I mean, expose all the internal errors. Probably that could be a database error, so we don't want to throw it on UI, otherwise that may be a security issues. So for now we'll be doing this way. In case we'll have to add something else in future, we can definitely come back here and add it. All right, get HTTP status and message. So this way what I can do, error response, I can just get rid of these two things, and or what I can do, just hold on for a second, I can do this way, const get HTTP status and message. I'm passing an exception, and this here we can do, I can just use status and message, was it message or error response, as error response. How do we write alias? So this way we can write alias. Ideally this should work now. Let's try this out. Okay, we are getting some messages, but that is definitely not in a format to read, and also it is actually giving us some text which is related to database, so we don't want to show this to send this in response. So probably what we can do instead of this, let's customize this message. Here we can write entity not found for the given ID. That's all. Alright, that's all we wanted to do here to handle this. And yeah, so we are done. As of now we are done. And one thing I wanted to see, so we are added two users on here and one user here. The reason behind that is probably this assigned users id 2 would have created this project, that's why it is assigned by default. And we are also not seeing created by, updated by here, so let's also populate those property. So what I'm gonna do here, back in project service, I can come back here in relations and I can add created by as well as updated by, and then uh, I'll copy and paste this 2 times. Okay, I think then it should work. Let me try it again. Yeah, we are getting created by. So yeah, so we are getting created updated by here null, and similarly we are getting created by, since this id2 created this project, that's why it is directly assigned on this. If you want to test it again at last time, so let's say if we write it something like this, then we can test whether I'm getting added automatically or not. So right now this user is getting added. One more thing to note here is why user 2 is getting added, why we are getting user id 2, since we are not using any authentication here as of now in this. So there's a problem, and how we can prove that, since at the time of creating, if I try to console log user quest.user.id, I probably will get this undefined. Let me show you. And this is undefined. Then how this user 2 is getting added? Then why this get user wide id is returning user 2? This is a question. And now if I just try to debug this, like we can add console log too many times, but I just want to show you by just debugging this. So let me just start debugging. Before that I will stop it here and I will start debugging, and then I'll show you this is returning what this is returning. Let me show you first, then we can discuss. Okay, let's try to create this again. I'm just 1 2 3 4. Okay, so this is returning project user id 2. Alright, I will just play it. If I go back in users, if I get all the users, just let me log in. And if I log in and if I get all the users again, probably id2 would be the first user. do one thing. Let's remove this private from user as of now, or yeah, let's remove this as of now, since we don't have rights to update and modify, and we can do that right away, but yeah, we'll have to change user rights there. So instead of doing this, I just want to show you what all users we have right now. So as you see, the ID2 is at the top, so we are always getting this ID2 even we are using what we can say, even we are passing this. Let me just go back in project service. So this is not giving us a correct result. Alright, to solve this, I would say type volume should not return the first item, although I'm using this thing, right? Still it is not failing. So it's better to solve this way. I mean, add this current user ID here, and then if I try to, okay, so now we are not getting this error. All right, we are getting bad requests. At least this is not saving with some incorrect data. Now how we can fix this? Although we have handled one step, but how we can fix this, like how this will work actually, and if this doesn't work, it should respond with unauthorized, right? Since if the user doesn't have rights. So basically we have not implemented our guards here. So when we will implement private here, so it will activate JWT auth guard, which will extract request user and set it into the request, and then permission guard, where we can define permissions on our project controller endpoint. So this permission will be only, I mean the user with those permission will only be only can access. So we'll have to add projects permission here as well. So we can do this in the next video, and then we will start working on ownership based access control.